Good morning, everyone. My name is Tammy Eisenreich, and I'm a parent partner for the Lucas County Board of Developmental Disabilities. And I am absolutely thrilled today to have Brooke Olson, one of my closest friends and president and co-founder of iTaalk Autism Foundation with us this morning. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about a little bit like how iTaalk got started, what exactly we are currently doing. I know the last 2 years have been, 2.5 years, have been a little crazy for us, but I think we're doing pretty good. And I would just love for families to know that, yes, we are still here. We are still helping families. And this is why we do it. I guess that's my biggest thing. And you are our heart of iTaalk. So I would love to have you share why we got started.
Okay, so first I'm just gonna, say, Tammy is our vice president and co-founder. So there is a connection here, more than just friends. So just for transparency purposes, and also she might pipe in and have a few details that I might forget even. So, but we started, and it's been, I think, 11. Is it 11 years or is it 11? 12 years.
Of 2010.
Okay. 2010. So we started, and iTaalk stands for Interactive Technology Assisting Autistic Little Kids. We started before there was even an iPad. So we were really fascinated with the iPod Touch and the iPhone and how it had some really interesting uses within the, autism world. And especially specifically with my son, he was having a lot of trouble with language, and even just making that connection to language has meaning. And I like to say he had 5 words that was just kind of rotate. Even though we were doing every type of therapy we could possibly do, he would still kind of get a new word and drop another one. So we were just stuck in this 5-word scenario. And it was, usually getting his needs met. It was drink, cookie, something like this. And I had seen an app that you could put on a phone, and it was probably the first AAC, very, very, very simple AAC app that was created. And it was called iConverse. And it had 6 buttons on it. And one of them was, I need a drink. One was, I need something to eat. I need the bathroom. I need a break. I need help. And maybe I'm not even sure what the last one was, but I had no idea what I was doing. I just put the app on my phone, and that was a process in and of itself, because back then the iPhones didn't come with the App Store. So you had to do all these updates, and it took about 10 hours. And finally I got this app on there, and I just handed the phone to my son to play with it. I mean, there was no rhyme or reason to what we were doing. It was, just kind of a great idea in my head, but the practicality and how to introduce it was not there. So he pushed the buttons, and the buttons would, like, if you push the button, it would remember the button. So he pushed it like 10 times, and it went, I need a drink, because it was like, going like this. It sounded really funny. It was very like computer robotic sounding. And one afternoon he was in the kitchen. He had his hand on the refrigerator. He was dragging me over there, and I was waiting for him to say, drink, what he normally did. And he looked at me and he went, I need a drink. And we were all just like, what in the world happened? So we were like, something about this clicked in his head. I mean, I've never heard more than 2 things. I've never heard more than 1 word and an approximation come out. And here he had repeated this sentence. And so what we found was that the iPad was inexhaustible, where you or I might have to like present something in front of him 150 times in order for it to click in his head. The iPad wasn't getting tired of doing it. He could touch it as many times as he needed to. So we put bunches of flashcards on his like little baby flashcards on the iPad. It was a different app. And within a couple of months, he was able to receptively identify hundreds and hundreds of things. And it really made a huge difference in his ability to kind of process what language meant to the world. Before then, it wasn't really clicking. So, of course, we all said, like, how do we make sure this is available to everyone else? And we come 11, 12 years down the road. And now we are, how many iPads, Tammy? Over 500.
And over 700 now.
Okay,
Our
so we've
collaboration with
granted
Parker's
over
Purpose.
700 devices. And I like to say devices because we have done things different than just iPads. We've done iPad minis, we've done iPhones, we've done iPod touches, we've done some other types of tablets. It's really, we've done a computer, I think, for one or two different people for what their needs were. We've done some other assistive tech process, different items, you know, certain types of pen, like a lights. There was a certain type of pen that a particular student needed for reading or accessing their academic
chip, the thing that we gave Chloe, the tracking.
Oh, and then we've also done some, we've done, I think, an Apple Watch, as well as like a regulation, like it really, now the Apple Watch has replaced what we had granted to somebody else. But I mean, it was, you know, like to measure your respiration rates and stuff, kind of to help prevent or to give you notice before maybe a panic meltdown would be happening. So you're getting these like little trigger warnings, like their respiration rate is increasing, they're sweating more than normal, their heart rate is speeding up. And those are all kinds of little indicators that we're maybe getting, we're like anxious. And so those are things like maybe you need to take a deep breath. So like it can prompt a person to take some calming breaths or to find a place that is quiet, or it can even just alert a parent or a caregiver, like you have about, you know, a minute or two to get them out of the grocery store so we don't have epic meltdown in this public place, or, you know, in the hallway of the school building, we can move them to a classroom where it's quieter, you know, those type of things. So now we're 2022 and things are a little bit more of a consistent pattern. We have partners that we have worked with, Parker's Purpose and the Fox family.
Northwest Apraxia, we've partnered with.
Yeah, Northwest Apraxia, Jasmine's Voice. But really, I think the two that the last 4 years have been consistently working with would be the Fox Family Ride for Autism and Parker's Purpose. And we've kind of served as their granting organization that kind of works through the process of the applications and the education and the types of devices that we're granting. And, you know, in that realm, and we follow the kind of the same pattern as well. So we've got April, the month of April, and the month of October would be when the application is open for people to apply. And then the education event and the actual devices are granted in November and May. So May and November. So right, like the month following. So that means that we're very quickly coming up on one of our open grant cycles. So October 1st, and please don't panic if you get online and it's not open on October. Sorry, I'm looking for my pictures of everyone. Okay, there. So October 1st is generally when sometimes the computer people around stuff kind of get a little like delayed from Parker's Purpose to get it listed on their site. But if you go to iTaalk.org, generally we have it readily available on the 1st of the month. And then we will take applications until the 31st. we really encourage you to get yours in earlier, because there is a budget that we are stuck within, and like we go back to the funding agencies, and we, like, if we are close to the budget and we say, okay, look, we had enough money to fund 15 and we have 17, do you think we could get funding for a little bit more? But like that conversation usually happens like the last week in October, not the last day in October. So I wouldn't want anyone to be miss out on something. So there's not a whole lot that goes into the application. It's something that you can do in probably less than half an hour.
Yep. And
probably even less than that if you really wanted to. But I mean, spending a half hour to really tell your story is going to be helpful. So I always encourage people to, and then here's a little tip, copy and paste what you write in for your story, and then save it in a little notepad or a little Word document somewhere, somehow, because once you've written that, the opportunity for you to use that or modify it just slightly and not have to redo it every single time is so valuable. Your story is your story, and it doesn't, while the little minute details change and your child grows, your story is still your story, and how you got started is still how you got started. And that is always, growing with you. And so if you can go back to that little, it's going to come in invaluable. It's going to be invaluable to you for IEPs too, like your parent statement. I mean, there's like every year you're going to have to write that parent statement. So having something to go from the year before, saving that, using it, modifying it, keeping copies of that, that's extremely beneficial for you, like going forward. All of our grant recipients are required to do some education, and that's kind of how we have separated ourselves from a lot of the other organizations out there that would grant a device. We ask all of our recipients to go through a one-day training. If you are already have a device too, so this is another little thing. If you have an iPad or you have an iPhone or you have been using one for a while or whatever, you are always welcome to come to our training events as well. And so are the professionals in your children's lives and caregivers. So if there is, I don't know what ages everyone's children are, but my son is now 17 and he's giant. I'm thinking you might have heard my little oopsie. We had a little hair cutting incident this week, and so I got a little black eye. But yeah, he's 6'3" and 255 pounds, and so he's a nice sized young man. And but nowadays, like, caregivers are like priceless to us, but we have new ones joining our team. And so if somebody doesn't know anything about this, bringing a caregiver, like asking a caregiver to go to a training, that is another thing that you can do, just to help out. And then they get to know other people in the community as well and can ask questions, not of you as mom. They might meet a behavior specialist in one of our trainings, and they might sit next to them, and then they can have a nice conversation with somebody about your child that's not you. So it's always helpful in those realms too. Let's see, we have an app, Facilitator Program. This is something that would be beneficial to anybody who has a device and who has a specific app that they haven't been able to afford, or they have been recommended by one of their like speech therapists. Some of the communication apps are, I think there's one that's $500. I think there's one particular version is $499.99. I think. So, I mean, it's a really great program. It's on our website. It's just a little application form. You fill it out. you kind of give us the name of the app, the link for it, how much it costs, who's going to be using it, who do you have to support you. But this is also open to anyone, any age. So I like to, throw this out there as a resource too. We originally started this program because we had a friend of a family's brother had ALS and couldn't get one of the communication apps. And we were like, well, that's not right. I mean, I can call that app developer and have them give us a code, And so we were like, okay, well, this is something that, we can facilitate sometimes without the cost if we know that there is a need and somebody isn't able to get it. So that is one other resource that we offer as well. And then I'm trying to well, of course, the Tammy's like crowning glory.
Show that.
She has a database of tons of grants, different special needs as well, different disabilities, all kinds of things. And so this list gives you hundreds, legit hundreds,
700.
700 different organizations throughout, I'm going to say the US, but there might be some that are international, but most of them are US based. And they meet all kinds of different needs. So, but that is an extremely valuable list. That list has been copied by lots of organizations, and I always on Tammy to protect her intellectual property on this list because it's amazing. And what you can know about this list and why you should always go to this site to look for this at this list is that Tammy checks them yearly and contacts each of the organizations to make sure that they're still accepting grants. You're never going to go to any of these. Well, I'm not going to say never, but you can be rest assured that within the last 12 months, they've been contacted to make sure that they're allowed to be on our list or that we have their permission to share their information and that they are still in business or still operating as a foundation or nonprofit. So that is an extremely valuable list for really anyone. And our organization maybe for what we are granting, maybe specific to autism, but with the Parker's Purpose piece that we have, it is open to all disabilities. So this October grant cycle, we will be accepting multiple disabilities for that. With the Fox family, it is autism specific, and it might even be geographically specific, but those things are all spelled out on our website. And I'm pretty sure that this is mostly Lucas County families here today. And so
I was
in
just
that
going to
case,
show some of the training handouts that are on here, different
Right.
past trainings that we've done.
Right. So some of the interesting things I want to, maybe we can just talk a little bit about, like in November, one of the topics that we're really excited about that we haven't done before is kind of how to integrate all of the different Apple products together and how individuals are using those. So for instance, we have one young lady who uses an Apple Watch, an iPhone, and an iPad. And she uses the iPad specifically for communication when she has like a difficult, or she's anxious, or she's feeling overwhelmed. She uses her iPad for communication, but she uses the iPhone just like you and I. She can call you, she can text you, she can do all that. And then the watch now is a new piece of technology that's integrating all of them together as well. So that one's gonna, I think, really be a nice new piece to the whole training or part. And then we have our hope is to have past grant recipient give her kind of feedback on and her personal experience with using a granted device for her son and getting using it as an augmentative communication device, and it being very functional and having a lot of success. So that's also something that is new. I feel like that as well, if any family coming in is receiving a device that they're going to want to use with a young child for augmentative communication, that will be, just an excellent probably hour of, how to make it, just a regular mom who was able to facilitate communication with her nonverbal child. And to me, that's what we're here for. And that's what we want to hear, who we want to hear from. So
I do want to stress, though, that you do not have to have a child that's nonverbal. Like with me,
right.
John has talked since we started iTaalk. We don't use the device in that capacity. We just find, as you know, in the autism world, what is it? A third of children with autism are nonverbal. Is that, would you say that number? And probably
it might be even lower than that. I mean, it might be even like an eighth, but it's hard to say. We get
a lot of applications that say, I'm hoping to develop their language or give them the tool to, reward, motivate to get them to communicate. But yeah.
And there's a lot of functions within a lot of purpose for the device with the executive function. And my daughter does not have autism, and she's a freshman at Miami University, and she has been using her iPad to keep her executive functioning skills kind of in check, because she doesn't have mom at home and dad at home to ask her every day, have you done your homework, have you turned this in? So she has some really interesting things, and she's potentially going to share her experience with how you can use the iPad for note taking and keeping your schoolwork and your whole self organized. So
med monitoring, I think, was another one. I know
Yes.
we use with my daughter when we try new meds and things.
Right.
All she has to do is track 1 through 5 how she's feeling that day, any special notes, maybe an upset stomach first thing in the morning, whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of great apps.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think, anything parents can do. We get a lot of inquiries, like how can they help the organization, or what can they do to help?
Right. Okay. So, just sharing the resource with other families if they don't already have them. We always take donations on our website, and we're a 501c3, so it's a tax deductible donation. The other, if we are not in a grant cycle and you or a family that you know of is in a situation where they need a device immediately, we do also have a program where we will set up a private link and a social media campaign for a device funding, where you guys share with friends and family. And so, for instance, if it happened in February where a device was broken or it was too old and they couldn't update it anymore, and it wasn't working the way they needed it to work, we could set up a special page that you can families can have friends and family make donations to it, and then they can raise money for their own child's device. And then in that case too, if there's any overage, we put it back into the fund that would go to help the May and November recipients, so that we can give more devices to anybody. Because it happens. It usually happens that we, once a family puts it out there, our kids are so hard to buy for, and people always want to help. And, you get 10 people to give $100, you have $1,000, and then you didn't need that much. And so that might leave 400 to go to another grant recipient. So.
Are there any questions for Brooke? Okay, well, as I said, this will be recorded and put on the lucasdd.org's website under the eligibility and funding. And I'm thrilled to say that next month on October 26th, the last Wednesday of the month, I will be talking with, I always forget his last name, but Nick from Operation Save the Lost, which is a wonderful nonprofit that grants geobit tracking devices that are software is good on iPads, on iPhones, on computers, and it does monitoring of children and it's live, so it's data driven. So please check back for that. You guys have a great day.